So the rhythmic diaphragmic breathing, one cycle of breathing does have 4 steps. Breathe in, holding, breathe out, holding. And the rationales of breathe in and then holding is to allow the body to process the breathed in air. And the rationale for the holding after breathing out, so that we are not taking the air that is expelled again within the body. That second holding means that toxic air which we have expelled is assimilated in the air. Then when we are retaking the air, that time it is a fresher air than the toxic air. So that's the rationale of the second holding. Now, rationally, these all 4 steps should be equated in the proposed RDB. It should be equated into 1:1:1. And at least 3 seconds time is proposed in the RDB. So don't go for these 3, but deeper as possible. But this 3 number will give some insight. If 3 seconds is recommended for 1 step, that means 1 cycle will need 12 seconds. 3 4s are 12, which means in 1 minute we should have at the most maximum 5 cycle. 5 12s are 60, but on an average we end up breathing 10 to 15 cycles per minute. 10 to 15 cycles per minute because of the shallow pattern of breathing. So we have inculcated a shallow pattern of breathing. We don't deep breathe. So ultimately, if we inculcate a deep breathing pattern, that is what is the beneficial in terms of the conservation of vitality, right? So that is the active RDB. Now ventilation, because we are most of the time we are confined in this winter season. This is absolutely observable now, because in India most of the places winter waves are going on. So we not in Hyderabad, definitely, Dr. Kaur. Dr. Kaur is enjoying in outside. That we see.
Fan is also on outside.
Fan is on. So here in the winter, try to be in the ventilated place. Even if there is a cold wave outside, but try to have some space to allow the external air to come in. That ventilation is very important, because this confinement of the walls compromise the quality of air. Right. Now, chemical impurities in the air, burning of incense stick, use of the mosquito repellent, use of the room freshener, all these things actually pollute the air. And we intentionally go for it with the masking of some fragrance, chemical fragrance. And we have already discussed all those matter plus idea aspect, right? So we need to bring in, if you require fragrance, then go for the natural flower fragrance. Inculcate a habit of keeping flowers around, so that keeping flowers will help you to deep breathe also. You know, natural fragrance always help us to breathe deeply. So, so these are few recommendations.
Kalyanji, can you give some practice for RDB once or twice? Like it is holding for 3 seconds.
Yeah, somebody
Inhalation
is talking.
and exhalation also.
Yeah. Somebody is talking. Can you please mute? Okay, I think it's mute already. Right. So breathing while doing any work, like it's not that separately you should conduct some breathing exercise, but while doing some work, you can be mindful. For example, you are walking You are walking, and that time you just start like how I do that I am just sharing. That could be customized by you also. So breathing in while I am taking in, one cycle, right? So breathing in,
This is not to
1,
be
2, 3.
practiced separately. This is along with any routine
Understand the
work.
rhythm you can do for some time to understand the rhythm, but separately will not help us in the overall inculcation. Like even meditation also, when we'll talk about meditation, that time also we recommend that you can just inculcate a habit of sitting in silence for some time, but ultimately it's the inculcation of a habit of having ideas but not emotion. So observing the emotion and its movement is the meditation, which is to be a part of the life, not a part of the practice for 1 hour in a day. Right? We need to be very mindful about whatever the chemical sensation that we are having in the body and what is the cause, whether it is a physical cause or a neural or mental cause. If it is a mental cause, then we have to counter that with question. Who are you? Why are you bothering me? Right? So we'll talk about that. Now coming to the water. Coming to the water. Somebody is enjoying snacks. Nitin. Nitin, what snack is that, sir? Afternoon snacks. Great. So this is the limitation of the online. We cannot share that physical matter. So anyway, coming to the third factor, water. Water, we are the suckling animal. Try and understand this aspect. Suckling animal. Suckling animal means we are not drinking animal. We suck. So drinking water is not needed. We should sip water. We should suck water. Sipping and chewing water slowly and in actually spells, not altogether a lot of water, right? And if we improve our raw food consumption, if we improve our raw food consumption, the water requirement, the separate water requirement will reduce tremendously. We need to understand this. Now we understood the osmotic water. So if we can provide ourselves, so that is the reason why the raw food consumption will reduce the water requirement, because the raw food contains the natural water a lot, which is the needed water for the body, the natural osmotic water. Right. Now, if the water is reversed osmotic, RO water, then we can improve the quality of the water by irradiating it in the sun. Irradiating it in the sun, that means keeping the water exposing to the sun. How we can do that? We can keep it in an earthen pot. Earthen pot is porous, which allow the sun particle, solar particle to enter. We can keep it in a space where the direct sunlight comes. So the quality of the water can be improved, because RO reduces the quality of water because of that forceful filtration, reduces the quality of water drastically. The natural water is no more if we are consuming just RO water. Right? So the improvement of the quality of water. So we are discussing about what here, but try to bring in as much as why possible in understanding what, because what should not remain as just a piece of information. We should process that information. Then only the long-term change can be there. And
Then
while
I have a question here.
consuming, sir, please go ahead.
Okay. So here you mentioned that I mean RO water should not be the norm. I mean,
yeah, RO
actually
water should not
kind
be
of
considered as the purest water.
definitely. Now, so uh, over the past 10, 12, 15 years, we have seen probably how the groundwater is used in at least if you look at places like Delhi NCR, how the groundwater comes to your houses, and obviously after going through a filter and then kind of reaches your place, most of the water which comes to your place is probably not in a drinkable form also. It's kind of too hardened and probably also contains a lot of chlorine and other things to kind of make it palatable for you, kind of drinkable for you. So, how to kind of weather that? And the problem is that, well, we might have been used to it maybe 30 years, 40 years back, but after consuming merely RO water or maybe like a lot of filtered water, it becomes very tough to go back to drinking maybe pond and river water and all that. It's a kind of issue there.
Yes, yes,
So
yes,
how to
yes.
go back?
So the management proposals in this, in terms of the water, is to increase the raw consumption, which will drastically reduce the separate water requirement. That's number one. Number two, whatever the water that you are consuming separately, it should not be under assumption that you have to drink X liter of water. It should be only in accordance to the voice of the organism, which is the thirst. The thirst will indicate the requirement of the water, and we should acknowledge the thirst by sipping water slowly and gradually. And the third recommendation is improving the quality of separate water by sun irradiation. We can definitely, whatever the source of the water that we have mechanically filtered or RO filtered water. After that, before consumption, if for few hours, we can keep it in the exposure of the sun, where the sun particle can improve the quality of the water. These three strategies, sir. Make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. The only thing is
For
that
now, till the time we go back to the jungles.
yeah, that's right. It's not going to be that easy. I mean, for the first few times when you start drinking raw water, it might really affect your digestive system. It might mess up with your body. But then, yes, the body would kind of, it always has a way to bounce back. So that will probably build up your own kind of immunity levels against, or whatever, I mean, your own defense mechanism against all such.
Now the last factor.
What's the thought on the age-old tradition of boiling the water, cooling it, and then drinking?
Boiling water, the aspect of the boiling water is driven by the concept of germ theory. It is not identified in pure nature cure. Boiling water is not needed.
Okay.
Mechanically filtered.
Sir, there's
There's some noise.
Which I personally had made, or my friends.
Can you hear me?
Mom all personally had made.
Yeah, there
Can
is
you
some
hear me,
noise.
Kalyan sir?
I don't know from your side or somebody else's.
And we also did it at school. Okay, I'll hold the question. I think there's some discussion disturbance, so I'll hold the question. I'll ask later.
Or you can type in, ma'am. You may type in also. We'll take it. Right. So hydrotherapies. Hydrotherapies is the water therapy that we recommend to manage our discomforts. During the periods of discomfort, which we may feel that it is unbearable, we need some management to reduce the discomfort at that space. It's a symptomatic relaxation, but non actually suppressive. So yeah, regarding the use of the copper and all those things, as Kekul ma'am asked, it is not specifically recommended, but definitely the metals are better than the plastic, because plastic hot water will react and you will be ending up drinking a water along with the plastic. So staying away from the plastic is always recommended, and no specific recommendation for the metal, but yeah, metal is better. One container you have to be non-reactive container is the better. Right. So
Can the water be irradiated through the metal container?
no,
No.
no, it's not porous. Yeah, so Himanshu sir asked that which is better, metal or the glass? A glass is far more effective as it is non-reactive. So Parna has a question. I have a question regarding water. Suppose we eat a cooked. That's the question. Chat. Yeah. Eat cooked solid food, for example, lunch or dinner. Then we drink water, not out of thirst, but for digestion. No, that should be indicated by the voice of the organism through the thirst. And if you have a spicy dinner, if you have overeaten, then the requirement, the thirst will be more. And always the drinking of water should be physically sense, physiological sense as the voice of the organism. No assumption that to digest I have to drink water. This is an assumption. I have to drink 2 liters of water per day. These are assumption proposals, right? Prashant asked, I've experienced increased consumption of raw food reduces salt. That's the question. Just a second. I have experienced increased consumption of raw food and reducing salt and spices greatly reduce plain water requirement. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Separate water requirement will drastically reduced when we increase the raw consumption, raw food consumption. I was talking about hydrotherapy. Hydrotherapy is use of water to discomfort, to reduce the discomfort management. Any body parts where the pain is there, that pain can be managed by improving the circulation through the hot and cold hydrotherapy or normal hydrotherapy also. Right, we'll talk about this in the spine care once again. So use of water as external use of water for reducing the discomfort is also another use of water. Coming to the solid food. Solid food, we need to understand first that why the raw food is recommended. So we call it a raw story. Where we take a mango and consume it. After consumption, we disintegrate the mango and we reintegrate the mango as body cell. So mango is actually as integrated RAW. Integrated RAW, step 1, which is disintegrated inside our body and then reintegrated inside our body. Now that mango is taken to the factory and there it is disintegrated and reintegrated as mango jam. Then that mango jam is consumed by us and it is further disintegrated and then reintegrated by our body. Here we see the steps as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 steps. Right. So this was the case number 1. This is the case number 2. Now, if we see this chain of the processing, longer the chain, higher toll on the energy in the last 2 stages. This last 2 stages are performed by us, the disintegration and reintegration. So here in the disintegration, we have to disintegrate this reintegration, which is humanly made. So the vitality needed in this aspect is much higher than this direct disintegration. Do you understand that? So the raw is always comfortable disintegration for us. That disintegration process may have some steps, as a mechanical disintegration, as much as chewing will relax the chemical disintegration in the process of digestion. So those all are understandable, but all in all, this is a simplistic disintegration comparing to the humanly modified, reintegrated, processed food being disintegrated inside our body, right? So this chain can be elongated further if we take the example of any other cooked food. For example, if we take the non-vegetarian food, chicken. Chicken actually starts at the store. Chicken story starts at the grains. The grains are actually the integrated RAW that is being consumed by the chicken. And disintegrated, reintegrated. Then that reintegrated chicken, the flesh of the chicken, is taken to the kitchen. We cannot consume it directly. That's enough voice of the organism that we are not meant to consume non-vegetarian food. Because without cooking, without enhancing the taste, we cannot consume non-vegetarian food. Anyway, we take it to the kitchen and we disintegrate it further. And with that disintegration, like chopping the flesh and all and mixing all the spices and cooking it further as reintegrated chili chicken. Then that chili chicken is consumed by us and we disintegrated that chicken and then we try to reintegrate into the body cells. So here, if we just count the steps, then it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Longer the chain, higher the toll on the vitality. You need to identify this aspect. Now, the calorie concept is another myth that we suffer from, that we get calorie from the solid food. So part analysis, we do not identify the part ATP theory. We don't identify in PNC. We propose a calorie understanding of getting heat in the process of conversion of the states of the matter. So when solid gets to the liquid, when the solid gets to the liquid, it needs heat. And in the process of digestion assimilation, the solid food is converted into the lesser dense. So in that process, we have to give heat from our body, from where we get the heat back. The heat back happens when reintegration happens in the body cell, and which is a very minimal portion of the food that we consume. We almost mass-wise pass the stool in healthy condition equal to the mass of the food that we consume. The mass of the assimilated portion of the food is very minimal, where the heat gaining is very less comparing to the heat that we need to give from the body while processing the food in terms of the digestion. So this solid to liquid needs heat, which is donated by our body itself. It is not the other way that we get heat from the food. So we can have debates around that. So calorie concept is not identified in this understanding of pure nature cure that food gives us. And another breatharian, we were talking about the breatharians. So breatharians, how they inculcate that, whatever is the debate, that's a different thing, but breatharians exist. And how they get energy without food? If energy is to be given from outside, ultimately actually energy is not gotten from the outside, it is conserved and engaged and disengaged within the body itself. Now, while eating food, we need to understand the circadian cycle. Dr. Dubey, another Dr. Dubey entered. Okay, from the laptop, might have. Yeah, right. So, yeah, any question, Dr. Dubey? You're unmute.
No, sorry, sir. Who actually laptop me there was something problem, so I entered
Okay.
from, iPhone. Then again, problem
Yeah,
was.
yeah. Again, back to the laptop. Yes. Thank you. So,
how this raw story goes with the vegetables? You explained it for the mango.
yeah.
For the vegetables, like having a vegetable
Yes.
raw
Same
and
story.
cooking it and eating.
Same story. Same story. So in that, actually, in this process of reintegration and disintegration, that will also, a vegetable cooking will have the 5 steps like this. This is the third case. So the second case is the vegetable case. So in this also, we need to be very mindful about this reintegration and disintegration that we do in the kitchen. It
For
doesn't go
example,
to the factory.
having a carrot raw or making a curry out of that particular vegetable and having it.
Yes, yes. Curry, if the curry is enhanced with the spices and salts, then it actually spoils confuses the voice of the organism. That we need to identify at the first level. Before discontinuing it, let's identify it. That any taste enhancement, whatever it may be, you call it too organic, spice or whatever, if we change the taste, that means we are going away from the nature at the first place. So we
Yeah,
need to give ourselves as much as a food which is tasty in its natural state. Yes.
yeah, but
About
in the
Yeah, go on, ma'am. Then I'll take Dr. Dubey's question.
okay, in the current state, it's like because we are used to one particular lifestyle and now getting into a new theory. So if we start reducing on the spice level, the voice of the organism will immediately not accept it. So it will be saying reject it or add something more. So I cannot have it. So how to incorporate that?
Yeah. Yeah. So that incorporation is that understanding of the idea mixed with the matter. We are influenced with a matter which is modified with ideas. So through questioning, we need to question the voice of the organism for its originality. The voice of the organism to which we are responding, is it the original voice of the organism or is it a morphed borrowed from somebody's idea? It is definitely borrowed from somebody's idea, right? So when we identify that this is not the original voice of the organism, we can definitely go to the next step and ignore it for some time, or at least reduce the consumption of those borrowed ideas things. Can we do that?
Yeah. So it's a slow start.
And this is not a new concept. I will hold you there. You propose that a new concept. It is not just identified so far. It is there inside us. The concepts, those are shared here, It is not a scriptural just narration. It is to be identified by my body. Naturally, for any organism, the food should be naturally tasty. It doesn't need any modification for its consumption. Is it a new concept, ma'am?
It's
Isn't
not
it a rational concept?
that we are understanding it now, but because until now, how our
We have not
lifestyle
focused it.
was.
We have
Yeah,
not
yeah.
focused on this. Now, if we bring this focus to something which is there perennially, we have just not noticed it, then can we do something to bring change, to align ourselves with this natural cues that we are discussing? That's what is the proposal now. Yes, Dr. Dubey,
This
you are.
salt and any other spices, salt, sugar, is it totally to be avoided according to PNC?
No, ma'am, we are not proposing that way anything that avoid it or avoid not. But let's just identify that adding salt, adding spices is modifying the taste. Let's identify, let's stay with this identification. Let's not bring some excuses. Okay, I had been doing it for so long, that's why let me do it. Even if so, if we are doing something, how we can change the habits, when we start observing the habit without the sense of rejection, or extra appreciation. If we just observe the habit and we know everything, that this habit is unwanted, I should reduce it. All these understandings are there perennially, programmatically. Just because of the opinions, enforced opinions, we actually drift and delay the change. So we need to acknowledge it. Yes, I am going away from the nature using this. And let's not put any enforcement that no, today onwards I have to stop eating spices and the salt. Keep eating, but keep observing. Then see what happens. The natural movement will reduce it. And alongside, if you can increase the consumption of the raw, because some or other raw fruits will be likable for everyone. Whatever the raw food is likable, just increase the consumption. Increase the consumption. And few tricks like, I'll talk about the circadian cycle, but a few tricks like supply management. Now, to bring a change, whenever we are hungry, we should have something raw. This is a meticulous enforcement we can go ahead. And for that, we need to keep the supply management inside our kitchen, inside our dining table, that lot of fruits available. So when you are keenly hungry, that time if we are picking anything which is satiating that hunger, our mind will take up that cue that this is the right food. And slowly and gradually we'll feel attracted towards that food which has satiated in our peak emotion, which is the hunger. Right? And other things are the community, self-track and research. Stick to a community which is discussing this, which is researching into this. You now are all newcomers are eligible to be part of our small community called Sci Solution Alumni Community. You can be a part of that community now onwards. And there we talk a lot about these concepts, and we share each other's challenges, and we overcome those. And there is a book also which is published as Handbook of Wise, we call it. So that book can be downloaded. We'll share the links. So a lot of conversations are there, which will definitely enhance our understanding. Right? I think this session has got few minutes left. How many minutes are there?
Less than a minute.
Less than a minute. Yeah, Dr. Dubey, we can hear your question, then we'll take it after we resume.
Okay, what about the steaming and boiling the food?
Yeah, we'll take that question when we'll resume steaming and boiling. And after this session, there will be, or I think already, Minu, have you shared the feedback form?
Yeah, I got
It is
it.
shared. Yeah. So please fill up that feedback form in this break of 5 minutes. Then we are resuming for the last session of the workshop. Right? How much time, Himanshu sir? Half a minute, or it is going to end?
Sir, it will end anytime.